You guys want to start from 20 on down? You want to go number one?
Nah, you gotta go at the top first,
go for the top.
and work backwards.
Go for the top. And at least for us, do we agree that at least the big fella in Denver is probably number one for most people? And that's just how it is for Nikola Jokic as the number one ranked player in the NBA to start this campaign.
I would say the only counter argument would be if Luka shows up for the season in shape, which, as I've said on this show, I'm always skeptical that he's going to do so. But I think Jokic's body of work, not just in the NBA, but certainly internationally too, right? Like he goes to the Olympics and basically all those games, he's the best player no matter what team that he's playing. I think the expectation that Denver will still be a contender in spite of the fact that, although it's muted expectations compared to last season, for example, is a testament to him, right? Because they are relying on so many young guys, unproven players. They do still have some very good players. Jamal Murray, we're skeptical on him, but still good. Gordon, still very good. Beyond that, it's a lot of, and Porter as well, who I know has had a nice preseason, but a lot of question marks elsewhere. And the only real reason that you still put them in, maybe not in the inner circle, but as a theoretical contender, is because people's belief in Jokic is that strong, right? Yeah. And I think the reliability of his production, I think not only that, but just like the multiple ways he can beat you offensively, right? If you try to turn him into, well, nobody tries to turn him into a passer, really, right? Because that's his signature skill from that position. But there was at one point a belief like, well, let him play one-on-one, and if he's going to be a scorer, that hurts the team. I think that was invalidated by a lot of that finals run, right? Because he was going on, 30-point per game for a whole series type runs while still averaging double-digit assists, still getting, 12 to 15 rebounds. I still have defensive question marks about him. Set them aside. He's good enough there, or the team has been good enough there for them to win a title and deserves all that. But he is by far the best offensive player in the NBA. And I think overall deserves that credit as number one guy.
Yeah, I don't think 1 and 2 are all that controversial. I know it will be for our listeners and in this chat. But I think Jokic 1 and Luka 2 is pretty cut and dry after what we've seen. Not necessarily based on just pure impact, but also availability is part of it as well, and reliability in the post. It would be one thing if Joel Embiid was just unavailable in the regular season often, but when you combine that with these other two elite players having more postseason success, I think those two at this point in their careers are 1 and 2.
Hold on. Money Mar is already saying it's analytics nonsense to make Jokic number one. Do you want to just look at a normal box score? That's been the fun. And I've had this argument with people so many times. You could just completely erase every advanced stat in existence, and we go back to like 1960s box scores. Nikola Jokic will still be the best player in the league, right? He averages like 25, 10, and 10, essentially, or like in that range. In any period in NBA history, no matter what they tracked for stats, that would put you at or near the top of the league. Like it's unassailable that he is in that inner circle, and I think he's number one. And also,
right now, like a lot of people when they bring that up, it's like they watch. They're suggesting that the analytics are showing something that's not represented in the film. Watch film of them play. Watch how important he is offensively. Watch how much they crater when he is off the floor. He is the entire hub of that offense, and he's one of the smartest, most dominant, most controlling players we've seen in quite a long time. It's not just I think if you didn't look at even a box score and you just watched him play, you'd go, oh yeah, that guy controls the game like nobody else in the league right now.
Yeah. It's okay to admit it. It's unfortunate for people who are invested in the Joel versus Nikola
Their
thing,
fans have little brother syndrome, and he's incredible. It's both true. It's both true.
There we go. You said it, not me.
Yeah, Mar, we're not arguing about this. We're just not doing that.
Nikola Jokic
silly. Is the best player in the NBA right now, so let's just leave it there. 3 of the last 4 NBA MVPs. He has been worthy of. He's been worthy of course, being in the conversation for all 3 of those for Joel taking the other one. And maybe Joel would have won the one last year had he not gotten injured, but he did get injured. So we're not arguing about this one. Let's just give credit where credit is due. Nikola Jokic right now to start the season is the number one ranked player in the NBA, and that's fair. Same for Luka Doncic. So I guess we don't really have to get into too much more about what we saw what he did. He took his team to the finals, a lot of help, certainly from Kyrie Irving. He was phenomenal. The supporting cast, especially the guys that they traded for at the trade deadline, helping out a great deal to get them to the NBA finals after having that slow start that they did. Luka Doncic was phenomenal. He's the number 2 player. So the question is, where does it rank now? Where does it fall now for number 3? You can go a lot of different ways here.
There are
a lot of different ways.
You step up first this time, Devon. I want to see what you.
I would actually go based on last season and even this season with where we project things to go out in the Western Conference, and give those other 2 that we have 1 and 2. With Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic, I would go with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the number 3 player in the NBA right now. And we'll get to the other ones. But for what he did for that team last year, although they did fall short in the conference semis, again, it's the trajectory of where that team and that franchise was to where they are now. And it is really based on and starting from what he has turned himself into as a, 2 consecutive or 3 consecutive first team all NBA selections for what he has done to help that and in that tough conference, and to be a guy that, similar to what Nikola Jokic is, this is a guy who is not ultra athletic. He does not have a knockdown 3-point shot with a skill set you're like, hey, you got to guard. No, this guy does it in a way where it's methodical. It's an old man game. He doesn't get up and just dunk on everybody. He is a phenomenal basketball player, and the way that they built that team around him, it certainly helps what he does. But that guy is so good, and for a young player to do what he has done, I'm putting him at number 3 behind the other 2, Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I think there's 3 people in the running for this one. One of them is SGA, another is Giannis, and then I think you throw Embiid in there as well. Obviously, Embiid has the games disqualifier that a lot of people will put on him and drop him below that top 5. So I think, if you're picking between those 2, Giannis might be a little bit of, he's certainly more of the 2-way player. Yeah. Maybe a little bit overstated at times defensively. He's not the defender he was 3 or 4 years ago, but I think he still very clearly clears SGA defensively.
Yeah.
And I think at his peak, he's probably still better than SGA, although there's a little bit of durability concerns coming in there as well. I would argue either way. You could convince me either person in 3 or 4. And quite frankly, debating between 3 or 4, realistically, if you're a GM, you take whichever one you can get. But they're very close. They're very different. I do kind of like elevating the young player who's on an upward trajectory and probably is going to end up being the number 1 seed in the West. So I have no qualms with that.
And quickly,
I think he's probably going to end up being the MVP this year.
And it's part of my thinking.
I agree.
Just because of the simple fact, if we're going to knock Embiid and not have him in the top 3 or have him in the top 2, it's because it is injury based. And the same thing happened with Giannis a season ago, where he missed a lot of time and that team fell off when he was on the floor.
He plays 60 to 65 most years. Yep.
Right. So for that is why for this particular season to start this campaign, that's where I put SGA there.
I'm going to go with SGA as well, because I think if once you get into these, I don't care that much about the availability stuff in these conversations. It's more like, how high can you set the floor? How high can you raise the ceiling? And are you impacting winning regularly? I think all these guys that are sort of in this argument do that. But if there's a separator, it's that I believe that Shai is going to play, 70 plus games more than likely, or at least high 60s. And with Giannis and Joel, I think both of those guys are question marks on that front. So I think SGA, while not an elite defender, I think has become a very good defender for the position and to help that team become who they were. More importantly, I just think that he has such a flexible game, right? Despite the fact that he's not an outside shooter, I just think every time I watch them, he is just in complete control of the game. Yep. Even as they kind of fell apart in round 2 last year, where Jalen Williams was just a complete disaster for most of the playoffs, certainly that second round. SGA just kept coming. He's trying to prop up all these young guys. Now that whole group has gotten year of experience, another year of experience together. They added Caruso, they got Hartenstein. I think now that it's weird, he's going to get probably more credit than he deserves now because the team is just better around him. But I think last season showed he is one of the 5 best players in the league at minimum. And I just respect the way he goes about it so much. Like, can be the guy that's dominating the ball. You can push him aside for a little bit to let J-Dub cook, and plays great off of Chet Holmgren. I love watching him aesthetically too.
Yeah.
Really helps. He's one of those that I probably put him higher than he deserved to be previously because I just love the goofy footed runners and all the mid-range game and all that. He's a true hooper's hooper. And so I'm fine giving him the number 3 spot.
We all silly like the mayor.